Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. And for those of you wondering, I did finish up the 10,000 subscriber Q&A series, and I did realize there were certain questions that I did not answer. So there were people in the comment section that did remind me that I did not answer their question. Make no mistake, I am going to go back and I am going to do another segment, and I will make sure that all your questions get answered. I just want to let you guys know that that particular video is coming. Right now, due to current global events, I have decided to pull back a little bit from my particular Q&A videos, only because I get a little bit emotional in those videos. I reveal a lot of different things about myself, and I also tend to get political. And right now, I don't want to get political in those particular videos, so I am going to wait just a little bit before I film that particular final session of the 10,000 subscriber Q&A series. With that being said, we are going to be talking about today the wonderful ideology of pop culture collectors, speculators, and wannabe investors in the antiques and collectibles trade. Now, this particular video, we're going to be talking about three main collecting markets. And I want to make this very clear: vintage toys, vintage comic books, and vintage video games. Because I have been doing this channel right now a little bit over 2 years. And one of the things that I've always said on this channel is that pop culture collectors and investors, for the most part, invest in reverse. They do not know what they're doing in a lot of these markets for the most part. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. No disrespect if you are one of those people who understands finance, who understands how these markets work, and you can make it work for you over the short term or over the long term. If that's you, I respect the fact that you're watching this particular video, but what I'm going to say probably isn't going to apply to you anyway. For the other 90% of you that are watching this, you're going to really want to stick around and hear this message, because I have been beating the proverbial war drum on this since I started this channel. And now, thanks to wonderful Disney releasing the mediocre series, in my opinion, known as the Book of Boba Fett, we have to have a follow-up conversation on this. So, to make a long story short, if you're not aware, sometime over the last few months, Disney premiered the standalone Star Wars story known as the Book of Boba Fett, which details an individual series related to everyone's favorite bounty hunter known as Boba Fett that first got his appearance all the way back in the early 1980s in Empire Strikes Back. Now, as somebody who is in their mid-40s, I grew up watching the original Star Wars trilogy. I do have an emotional attachment to those movies. I'm not obsessed over Star Wars, but it is something that when I think back at my youth, I do remember owning a lot of the toys, being a true fan of that particular work of fiction. So this is something that I do feel strongly about. Well, I did take the time to watch the Book of Boba Fett, and as a lot of you guys are already aware, if you watch every single video that I produce on this particular YouTube channel, you know that I've been very disappointed in Disney's handling of the Boba Fett character. And mainly it stems from, if you go back and you watch Empire Strikes Back, if you go back and you watch the first half of Return of the Jedi, you're going to see that Boba Fett was an almost psychopathic, very cold bounty hunter. That's what gave him the edge. That's why he appeared so callous in those particular movies. That's what kind of made him a popular yet mysterious character. Well, in the year 2022, with Boba Fett making a resurgence, he escapes, spoiler alert if you didn't watch the series, he escapes the Sarlacc pit, and he becomes this kinder, gentler Boba Fett bounty hunter who really wants to do good for the people of Tatooine, and he wants to become this really caring leader. And this is something that I have a problem with, because obviously, in all factuality, when we look at the Star Wars trilogy or the Star Wars chain of events, this is really only supposed to be a couple of months out since pretty much Boba Fett escaped from the Sarlacc pit. So really, he should be, for all intents and purposes, the same character that he was in The Empire Strikes Back or even in The Return of Jedi. Now, I understand what some of you are going to say. Well, Sean, maybe the experience of being ingested by the Sarlacc pit changed him. And I get that. That could happen. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just stating, when I sat down and I watched the Book of Boba Fett, I was really disappointed in how the writers portrayed the character in the year 2022. It's almost like the writers of that series are assuming that a lot of fans of that character are extremely dumb, not realizing that it's almost a completely different version of Boba Fett that we are getting now when compared to his original appearance in The Empire Strikes Back and in The Return of Jedi. Now, to be fair to the writers of that particular series, I do like a lot of the nods to some of the key characters in the original trilogy. I like what they did with the Hutts. I don't want to spoil the series for anybody that has yet to see it, but I do like how they are at least creating the overall universe. I just disagree with the handling of that particular character and what he has become. Now, what does this have to do with investing in antiques and collectibles? Because after all, this is a channel that is devoted to collectible finance. I'm not here to hold your hand and walk by through memory lane talking about the time you got your first Nintendo Entertainment System and how much it really changed your life. Or to use this particular instance as an example, I'm not here to hold your hand and talk about how we both felt the first time we saw Star Wars or The Empire Strikes Back or The Return of the Jedi on the silver screen. What we are going to be talking about today is why so many collectors, speculators, and investors in the antiques and collectibles trade, when it comes to pop culture collectibles, they invest in reverse. And I have been screaming about this multiple times now on this channel, literally over the past few years, ever since, if you guys go back and you watch some of my early videos where I talked about graded vintage video games and some of the alleged shenanigans that are happening in that market or were happening in that market back then, you're going to notice that I always pose this question to you guys. Why is it when something becomes quote unquote hot or valuable or hits an all-time high in the overall pop culture collecting scene, do people consider it a good time to try to invest in that particular item for the years to come? And we're seeing this with comic books. Like if you right now look up the price of a Tomb of Dracula 1 or a Tomb of Dracula 10 CGC graded comic book, or a Werewolf by Night 32 right now, which is the first appearance of Moon Knight. If you look up these books and you were absent from the comic book collecting and investing scene for like the last 5 or 10 years, you're going to get sticker shock. There's a lot of people that are even reaching out to me who pretty much have these books and they've been away from comic book collecting. They've been away from comic book investing. And they're reaching out to me and they're saying, Sean, I got a book here that I paid $1,000 for that's now selling for close to 20 grand. Am I really going to keep this book? Hell no. I'm calling Comic Link. I'm calling Heritage Auctions. It's getting sold. This is ridiculous. These prices are ridiculous. Meanwhile, some of you continue to go on online collecting forums. You go on some of these hype-driven YouTube channels, and you try to argue that these items that are selling at all-time highs are actually selling at a discount, meaning they're actually undervalued in today's marketplace. And this really drives me crazy to the point where I have to laugh at some of these comments that I see on online collecting forums, even in other YouTubers' comment section. I don't comment. I just sit there, look at the comment, and I just roll my eyes. It is truly amazing that some of you out there actually think that prices on a lot of these items are going to exponentially increase over the long term. Now, what does this have to do with the book of Boba Fett? Well, if you log on eBay right now and you search Boba Fett AFA, again, some of you out there don't know what AFA stands for. It stands for Action Figure Authority. So if you type Boba Fett AFA and you click sold and completed auction listings on eBay, you're going to get a list of anything that has Boba Fett in the title that was graded by AFA. And you're going to see what some of these items are selling for. And what I would encourage you guys to do is, if you are looking to add anything vintage, anything Boba Fett to your vintage toy, your vintage Star Wars collections right now, I would honestly encourage you to take a step back. Does anybody really think in another 10, in another 20 years that the book of Boba Fett is going to be held in higher regard compared to all the other Star Wars movies and all the other Star Wars franchises that Disney has in the works at present time? It's no different when I talk to comic book collectors. A lot of you guys come to me, Sean, you're wrong. Amazing Spider-Man 300 is a key issue, and it is selling at a discount right now in the year 2022. And what is it that I tell you guys? You guys are sorely mistaken. Do you think 10, 15 years from now, anybody is going to look back fondly on the 2 Venom movies that came and went to the point that nobody really cares about those particular movies at present time? Do you see what's happening here? Disney, in all of its infinite wisdom, is making a lot of smart decisions by making a lot of these movies based on the Marvel Universe, based on the Star Wars franchise, and they're putting it out for everybody to go to the box office to watch, to subscribe to Disney Plus and watch, to go to the Disney theme parks and actually take an active role in. If you look at the new hotel that's based on Star Wars, I think it's called Galactic Cruiser, something like that, you can see Disney's making a lot of money over this. A lot of you guys, rather than buying these collectibles and trying to quote unquote time the market, if you really want to invest in this stuff, you'd be better off buying Disney stock. I hate to say it. It's no different with the Nintendo fanboys. A lot of people are out there, Sean, you don't understand. Nintendo is going to be here for 50 years from now. It is going to be the most popular video game franchises of all time, even looking 50 years in the future. What is it that I tell you guys? Then instead of trying to invest in a vintage copy of The Legend of Zelda or Metroid or whatever it is, why don't you just buy Nintendo stock? I do not understand the way that some of you think. If you really think this is the next big thing, and a lot of younger collectors, a lot of younger people are really going to be going after this stuff, wouldn't the most obvious logical approach be to go after the stocks of the companies that make these products? It's no different. Like, I do watch Alpha Investments. You guys know this. And Rudy talks about owning Hasbro stock. And if you're not aware, Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, which publishes Magic the Gathering. I myself own a shit ton of Hasbro stock. Do you know why? Because unlike some of you that want to hear what's the newest Magic the Gathering set that I can buy at $90 or $100 a box, and I can throw it in a closet, and I can wait 5 years. When it goes out of print and people really want to own that particular box, I can pull my collection out of the closet and I can list it on eBay. Well, why would you want to go through all that where if you really think Magic the Gathering is going to increase steadily in popularity over the years and more collectors are going to come into the market, why don't you just do yourself a favor and instead of buying a factory sealed box or case of Magic the Gathering, go and buy the damn company stock and be an investor that way. And you know what I get? Well, Sean, that's not as fun. Well, what you got to understand is this is a collectible finance channel. We're talking opportunity costs. We're talking risk versus reward. We're talking about markets, and markets like these can change in their entirety. Now, do I think that somebody putting a portfolio of stocks based on the antiques and collectibles trade, if that's their only holding, is that really a wise idea? No. You need to be well diversified. That's why I tell you guys, go after a total stock market index fund, go after an S&P 500 index fund. Own the whole market from that standpoint. But if we're going to break this down and you guys are trying to argue, well, right now is a great time to buy Boba Fett collectibles, I'm here to tell you, if you do a simple search on eBay and you look at what the price of some of these particular vintage Boba Fett action figures and vehicles related to Boba Fett, mainly the vintage Slave One, if you guys know, that's his ship that he used in Empire Strikes Back. If you look up the prices of some of this stuff, you're going to see that literally within the past 2 years, these prices have exploded. I would never advise any of my clients in the greater antiques and collectibles trade to invest in these markets right now. They are too overblown. They're too speculative. And that goes even to certain comic books. Like those of you that are reaching out saying, Sean, you don't understand. I'm going after a Tomb of the Dracula 10. I'm going after a Werewolf by Night 32. I'm going after an Amazing Spider-Man 300. Let me give you some advice. I'm an investor in these markets. Much like a lot of you guys out there, I do have a passion for these markets, but I don't worship at their altar. Meaning, I don't need to own this. I don't need to live it. I don't need to breathe it. I'm already a consultant in the antiques and collectibles trade. I literally have 2 copies of Amazing Spider-Man 300, CGC graded in 9.8 condition. Are you aware I paid less than $1,000 a piece for those books? They're just sitting in a climate-controlled storage locker right now. I should literally take my own advice, pull them out, and consign them to either Heritage Auctions or Comic Link or Hakes, whoever. Okay? That would be the prudent course of action. You guys need to understand that just because a new movie, a new series, something that's happening with a character in any of these universes is announced does not mean that time is a good time to invest in these markets. If you really want to invest in these markets, try to analyze what is now considered undervalue, what is under the radar, what is a sleeper in a lot of these franchises, and see, is there a possibility that in the future, whether it's 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years from now, there's going to be awakened demand in that particular collectible, item, comic book, video game, whatever it is. And you would make more money over the long term than being a lot of these bandwagon jumpers that are just going after this stuff because, oh, the book of Boba Fett's out. Oh, they did a movie on Venom. Oh, Werewolf by Night. There's going to be a show on Disney Plus featuring Moon Knight. Now's a good time to invest in that. No, now's a horrible time to invest in it. Now's the time you sell into the market and you capture that money and you put it somewhere else. Even if it's not in the overall antiques and collectibles trade. If you take that profit, you put it in a total stock market index fund, you put it in S&P 500 index fund, you're going to be sitting pretty. And I know right now at the recording of this video, the whole world is in turmoil. I'm not going to get political in this video, I promise you. But what I'm going to say is it always cracks me up. Right now, the S&P 500 is down roughly 10%. And I'm getting emails from Timmy's, Kimmy's, and Poindexters that sit there and think that they're like trolling me by telling me, look at that, you told people to put money in an S&P 500 index fund and it's down 10%. I got news for you. By the time this is all over, the S&P 500 index fund has the potential to drop more than 20%. And guess what? If it does, I'm buying into that. I'm not buying Boba Fett. I'm not buying Moon Knight. I'm not buying any of this stupid stuff. I'm going after depressed prices of financial assets. That's how I got to where I am at the age of 45. Not sitting here trying to invest in Boba Fett or Moon Knight or Venom when prices are at all-time highs. Thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you, guys.